Hi there, I'm Beth Williams. I'm a personal trainer and a yoga teacher, and today's class is a Warrior Fit strength training class for yogis. So focusing more on alignment in the strength training exercises, and there's a little bit of a fusion of some yoga throughout some of these classes, and also working with some dynamic flexibility, mobility to help to warm up the joints before we get started with weights. So today what you're going to need are some weights. I've got two 10-pound weights, two 8-pound weights, two 5-pound weights, and two 3-pound weights. If you know that you would work with heavier weights with chest presses or with deadlifts, then you can grab some 15s if you have them at home. If you don't, then don't worry about it. Just work with what you have. Also, I have a blanket that I'll be recommending that you work with today. Some water, a towel to dry off if you sweat, and a couple of yoga blocks. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll come to our feet to start. And we're going to start with some shoulder warm-ups today. So taking the tips of your fingers to your shoulders, lift your elbows about shoulder height, shoulder width, and then start to slowly circle your elbows outwards. Just finding your range of motion without any pain. And then spiraling back into center where you started, and then going in the other direction. So one of the things I want to talk about as we start today is the idea of working in your scapular plane whenever you're doing overhead presses. So I'm going to turn to the side so that you can see what I'm talking about. So in an overhead press, holding weights in your hands, what we typically look for is that the wrist is over the elbow and the forearm is more or less vertical, so straight up and down, rather than at an angle like this. Of course, it's all going to depend on shoulder tightness and also the shape of your upper arm bone in relationship to your shoulder blade and your clavicle. But for the most part, trying to maintain that verticality of the forearm is important. Also, you might notice that my elbow is in front of the head of the arm bone here, rather than back here behind that scapular plane. So when the elbow is in front, the natural curvature of the shoulder blade is happening here, whereas when I take the arm back, then there's a pinching that happens back there in the rear delts. So for me, I know that my elbow being about 5 to 8 degrees in front of the head of the arm bone here is where I have my sweet spot, where there's no pinching or compression. And the starting position for an overhead press, the elbow is just a little bit below the armpits or the tops of the shoulders there. And on an exhale, you would press up and in, trying to maintain the wrist over the elbows throughout the movement. All right, so we're going to start with a warm-up at a wall. So if you can find a spot that's clear at a wall, you'll need a couple of blocks here. So if you need to pause the video to find that spot, go ahead and do so. Grab your blocks. And then you'll meet me at the wall. So this is a shoulder warm-up, also warming up and lengthening the adductors, the inner thighs. The blocks are going to go underneath the outer hip bones, and depending upon how tight or open you are there, you can adjust the height of the blocks so that your upper thigh bones are supported, the feet together, and the sacrum is at the wall, and trying to also get the back of your thoracic spine at the wall and the back of your head to the wall. Okay. Now once you've found that, you'll begin with your arms back. Now you are not in scapular plane here, actually just a little bit further back from there, but this is going to open up any tight areas that you have in your chest and also the lats as well. So I'm trying to find that I have about 90 degrees of a bend at the elbows here, and then once I've found that, looking forward, and I'm just going to take a breath in and really try to create some space in the ribs, the clavicles, shoulder blades, and then on an exhale, start to slide the hands up the wall. So the backs of the wrists are to the wall, the backs of the hands are to the wall if you can, and just working on straightening the arms as much as you can. Keep your back to the wall, your hands to the wall, your wrists to the wall. Once you've reached the end range of that motion, come back to the starting position. So your elbows are just a little bit below the tops of the shoulders. You might peek to see that that's happening. And then as you exhale, again, sliding the hands up the wall, trying to keep my fingernails to the wall. And once you find that stopping position, then go ahead and inhale, come back down. And we'll do that 3 more times. Inhaling down and exhaling up. So you're not trying to keep your shoulder blades fixed down your back. That's another really important thing to remember when we're working with our arms overhead. You can allow your scapulas to rotate out and up as you're reaching overhead. So certainly don't try to keep your shoulder blades fixed or drawn down the back. That can cause impingement in the shoulder. Let's just do one more for good measure. This is tiring. You can really feel, especially on my left side, that it's fatigued a little bit already just from this movement. Okay, so go ahead and release the arms back down. And you can set your blocks over to the side. We might use those later on. So next up, I'd like for you to grab your yoga blanket and roll it up into a nice tight roll. If you don't have a firm yoga blanket like this, you can roll up your yoga mat, and you want the roll to be about 6 inches. It just depends on your size of your feet. So we want it to be firm enough to where it doesn't squish. So regardless of which one you're using, the blanket or the roll, once you get it rolled up, I'd like for you to step your feet up onto the roll. Fingertips can be on the floor or blocks. And you want to have your heels off of the floor and your ball mounds and your toes off of the floor. So you're really kind of balancing here. And as you inhale, I'd like for you to roll forward a little bit so that your toes are below the height of your heels. And your knees are going to bend. And then on your exhale, roll back so that your heels are lower than the height of your toes and your legs straighten. Inhale, bend the knees, rocking forward, toes below the heels. Exhale, rocking back, straighten the knees, heels below the toes. So just finding a rhythm here. Again, if you need blocks underneath the hands, then certainly prop yourself up accordingly. So what this does is this frees up the ankles, any tightness that you have where your leg bone meets your talus of your ankles. And when you free up those ankles, then you'll find that ankle flexion and dorsiflexion is much easier in squatting. Okay, so finishing off with the heels below the heights of the toes, pause there for a moment. And then step off of the rolled up blanket or the rolled up mat. And go ahead and come all the way up to standing. Let's grab our lightest weights that we have. So 3s. stand with your feet about hip distance apart or shoulder distance apart. And we're going to work next with that overhead press. So the elbows are about 5 to 8 degrees in front of the shoulders. Their elbows are just a little below the shoulders. Palms are facing forward. Take a breath in. As you exhale, press up and in. Inhale, bend your elbows back to that starting position. Exhale, press up and in. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, press up and in. Good, keep going. You might look out of the corners of your eyes, see if you can trace the elbows and the weights that are in your hands through the periphery of your vision so that they're equal, right and left, as you're lowering, as you're lifting. Five more. And remember, let your shoulder blades lift as you're lifting your elbows and your arms. So it's not that you're trying to scrunch your shoulders with your ears. That's not what I mean. What I mean is letting your outer shoulder blades rotate out and up. And so finishing there and just watching, let's pretend that my hands are your shoulder blades. This is how they're kind of angled onto your back. And so when you're pressing overhead, your shoulder blades are rotating out and up a little bit. And then when your arms are lowering down, they're coming back in. So the inner borders of the shoulder blades come in towards the spine as you're lowering your weights down. And your outer borders of your shoulder blades rotate out and up as you're pressing the weight overhead. Okay, let's do that again. Grab your weights. 3-pounders. If that was too easy for you, you can go to 5s if you'd like. Okay, got my elbows in that forward position here, wrists over the elbows. Gonna breathe in first. Exhale, press up. Let the outer borders of your shoulder blades rotate out and up. And then on the inhale, lower the weights down. Let the outer border of the shoulder blades go in. Good. Exhale up. Inhale down. Most people that I work with, especially women, say that their shoulders are weak, that they have a hard time pressing things overhead. So this can be a really functional movement if you think about, those are the things that we do throughout the day. Maybe getting that casserole dish up and out of the cabinet or putting it away, right? Picking things up overhead. Playing with your kids, your grandkids. Last one. So remember that if you can't do 15 repetitions in good form, or if you feel like you're fatiguing or there's pain, you need to lighten the weight. If you're already down to the lowest weight that you have, you might consider using no weight. Okay, it's just using the weight of your arms to do overhead presses. So the ankles should be nice and freed up, the calves a little bit more open. So let's work with our squats next. And in today's squat, you can grab your 10-pounders or your 8-pounders. And we're just going to have the arms straight throughout this variation today. So taking the feet out to your squat stance. If you're not sure what your squat stance is, I would recommend going back to the first Warrior Fit video where I talk about that. Okay, so find your squat stance. Arms straight, chest lifted. I know those shoulders might be tired here, but keep your chest lifted, your arm bones back in socket. All right, so as you inhale, you're going to take those hips back. Keep the chest up, the weight's close in towards the sides, and exhale up. Good, inhale, sit those hips back. Exhale up. Now you might find that your knees are wanting to track in because of the weights where they are. And if that's the case, you can experiment here with taking the weights in between your fingers and bringing them more to the insides of your legs. So we're keeping the arms straight. Moving slow and controlled. 5 more. Last 2. And 1. Okay, set your weights down. And let's trade our weights out for our lighter weights. So maybe 3s or 5s. For reverse flies. So that's going to work the rear deltoids and the muscles in between your shoulder blades, your rhomboids, your trapezius. So bending over from the hips, position the feet so that they're wider than the outer hips. Hinge forward. Root your arm bones in the sockets there. A little bend to the elbows, elbows point out. And as you exhale, take your arms out into that T shape. Remember the scapular plane we talked about, so you don't want to lift your hands higher than that scapular plane. Inhale, closing the hands shoulder distance apart. Exhale, reach the arms out. Inhale, back to start. Exhale, open out. Inhale. Exhale, reach out. Inhale, close. Exhale, use those backs of your arms to lift. And when you lift your arms out to a T, squeeze your shoulder blades towards each other. Last 5. 4. 3. 2. Last one. Good, come up to standing. Set your weights down. Okay, so we're gonna make a configuration with 3 of our weights. So you can imagine a clock, if you will. So at the top of the mat, where we put the first weight, that's going to be considered 12 o'clock. Grab 2 more weights that are the same size. And those are going to be considered 3 o'clock. So maybe just a little off of your mat to the side, and 9 o'clock. So we'll be doing some single leg hip hinge, kind of like a single leg deadlift, if you will, or warrior 3 if you do yoga. And we're gonna start with the left foot so that it's slightly in between the 3 and the 9. Okay, right in the middle of the mat, so the toes are directly behind the 12 o'clock weight there. Okay, so let's take the left hand to the left hip, squeeze the right glutes, lift the right leg a little bit back into hip extension. Take the right arm forward. Now as you inhale, I want you to go over to the 9 o'clock position with your right hand. So there's a rotation that has to happen as you go over, and maybe touch it, maybe just reach for it, and then come back up to standing. Good. Now let's go to 12 o'clock on the inhale. Lifting up that right leg, and then exhale as you stand. And then we'll go over to that 3 o'clock with the right hand. Inhale as you hinge, exhale as you rise. So we're gonna do that 3 more times on this side here. So to the 9, exhale, stand. Inhale to 12, exhale, stand. Inhale to 3, exhale, stand. Inhale to 9. Oh, where is it? There it is. Exhale, stand. Inhale to 12. Exhale, stand. If you lose your balance, that's okay. Just come back on board. Inhale to 3. Exhale, stand. One more time through, 9 o'clock. There it is. You got to really reach for that. 12 o'clock. And stand. And 3 o'clock. And stand. Let's switch. So the right foot now is in the center. The toes in line with the 12 o'clock. Bring your right hand to your right hip. Take your left foot back so the leg is in hip extension. Left arm forward. So we're going to start by reaching the left hand over towards the 3 o'clock. It's okay if you don't touch it. So inhale, hinge from your right hip. This one's really hard for me. Exhale, stand. Inhale, 12. Exhale, stand. Inhale, 9. Exhale, stand. 3 more times. Inhale, 3. Exhale, stand. Inhale, 12. Exhale, stand. Inhale, 9. Exhale, stand. Inhale, 3. Exhale, stand. Inhale, 12. Exhale, stand. Inhale, 9. Exhale, stand. One more time through the whole thing. 3, 12, and 9. All right, I didn't fall. Okay, so done with those weights. We're really just using that as a tool to create some range of motion, flexibility, and strength. For those of you that are really working on trying to do your single leg deadlifts with better balance. So you just challenge a little bit more to create instability so that you can become more stable. Okay, excellent. So next up, we're going to do some jumping jacks. And so if jumping jacks are not something that you're doing, maybe you are not doing concussive movements, maybe you're not jumping, you can do the more modified version. So I'll start the clock. We'll do 1 minute and I'll show the modified version. Okay, starting now. So you just step your legs out to the side as you reach your arms up. Just like that. Okay. Otherwise, traditional jumping jacks. A lot of people say that really feel their calves when they're doing this. Keep going. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, towel off. Get a drink of water. If you want to keep moving in place, you can. If you want to stand and catch your breath, you can. Okay. So let's put together our overhead press and our squat. So grab your weights for overhead press. Find your squat stance. Find your overhead press position. Wrists over elbows, elbows forward of shoulders. Okay, here we go. Inhale, sit your hips back into your squat. Try to keep the elbows forward. Exhale, press up and in a little bit. Inhale, lower the weights, bend your knees and hips, your ankles. Exhale, press up and in. Inhale down. Exhale up. Inhale down. Exhale up. Inhale down. Exhale up. Keep going. Last 5. Two. And 1. Okay, set your weights down. Give yourself a moment. I need a moment. Okay. Reverse fly. So we'll pick up those 3-pound weights again. Hinge from your hips. Feet wide. Starting position, shoulders rooted back. Head in line with spine. Exhale, reach the arms out. Inhale, arms back to start. Exhale, reach out. Inhale, back to start. Keep going. Find your rhythm. Squeeze those shoulder blades towards each other as you lift your elbows. This is 8. 5 more. And 1. Okay, come up to standing. So let's switch our weights out for deadlift or single leg deadlift. So I'm going to grab 2 10-pound weights. Feel free to grab 8s or 15s. So as a reminder, suitcase deadlifts. Your feet are about hip distance apart. You start off with your eyes forward, neutral spine, hands holding weights next to the hips. On your inhale, you're going to hinge forward from your hips, slide the weights down your shins, and keep your spine neutral. As you exhale, drive through the feet to come back up to standing. So you can continue to do those, or shift your weight into your left foot, take your right leg back into hip extension, unlock the left knee, inhale, hinge from the left hip, lifting the right leg, exhale, stand. as you are hinging from the left hip, lifting that right leg the same height as the spine. So keeping a nice long line between your ears, your shoulders, your hips, and then that right heel the whole time. 3 more for you single leg deadlifters. Those of you that are doing traditional style with both feet on the floor, you'll do 20 repetitions. Okay, other side, right foot roots down, left leg into hip extension, eyes forward to start. Inhale, hinge from that right hip. Exhale, driving through that right foot to stand. Find your own rhythm. Maintaining stability through that standing leg, that foot. So this is 5. If you lose balance, just get back up onto it again. Last one there. Okay, set your weights down. So next we're going to do what's called a hard rolling pattern. So I'm going to move my mat just slightly away from the wall. Move any of the props out of the way so we don't run into them. Because as the name sounds, we're going to be rolling. Hard rolling pattern. This is really good for cross-lateral strength through your obliques. So you might find one side is easier than the other, one side more difficult than the other, depending upon your weakness in your abdominals. So it looks like this. Right leg straight, left knee comes into flexion, hip into flexion, opposite elbow, right elbow, in towards the left knee, left arm overhead. Is there anything over there I can feel that I don't want to knock over? Okay. Lift your head and shoulders so you can connect your elbow to your knee, your opposite elbow to your opposite knee. And then lift up your right foot, right leg, left arm, and roll to your left side. And then from there, keep your elbow and your knee connected, roll back to center, and then to your right side. Keep your elbow and your knee connected. Try not to use your right leg or your right arm to push off into. Come back to center, roll to the left, come back to center, roll to the right. And one more time each side, to the left. Try not to disconnect your elbow and your knee. Try not to push off with your hand and leg. Back to center, please. That's my easy side. So the other side, much harder. I've had abdominal surgery on this side and hip surgery on the right side. So it's going to be challenging on this side, but I still do it anyway. So right knee and hip flexed. Left elbow comes to that right knee. Try to connect them if you can. Right arm overhead. My left leg is straight and lifted. I'm going to roll to the right side. Try not to push off with your limbs. Roll to center into the left side. Well, that one came down hard. To the right. Keep the arm and leg straight. That's extended to the left now. And to the right. And use your core, use your core, use your core. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze to the left. to center. Oh my goodness. That was hard. I know, it looks like we're just rolling around like a dead bug on the floor. Now, from here, let's do our chest presses. So we're gonna do 2 sets in a row. So grab your weights. Okay, so rock and roll back onto your back. Arms straight up. Wrists over the chest, over the shoulders there. And as you inhale, bend your elbows 90 degrees. Wrists remain over the elbows. And then exhale, press up and in. Inhale, lower. 15 reps, guys. Exhale, press. Inhale, lower. Exhale, press. You really blow out of your mouth when you exhale. Get extra help from your abdominal core. Gives you a little more strength and power. Last 5. Two more. All right, rock and roll up. We are going to take a break seated between the sets. Just give your wrist a little bit of a break. So while we're waiting between sets, one of the things that I want to talk about is that your chest press and your chest and your rows, your back muscles, they're only as strong as your grip strength. So if you're getting fatigued through the hands, if you're getting fatigued through the wrists and the forearms, or you're finding later on that you're much more sore through your hands and your forearms, it means your grip strength isn't as strong as it could be. One of the things that I think is important for people to know when they're lifting weights is when you hold the weight, you want to hold it with your palm really gripping. So right here should be the part that really grips, and then the fingers are just going to curl around after that strength. And what I see a lot of the times is people are using their fingers more than they're using the grip of their hand. Okay, so keep that in mind, and you might notice if you're doing that, they have these great tools that you can use to strengthen your grip strength. You can get them online, and sometimes you'll see these I'm trying to think of what the material is that it's made out of. Anyhow, it's some sort of a ball that you can squeeze that will help to also improve your grip strength. Okay, so let's get back to it. Chest press second set. Rock and roll back. And once you're settled here, neutral spine, inhale, bend your elbows. Exhale, press up and in. So I chose a weight that is easy for me today. I know that I can do 15s and sometimes I can do 20s. But I think it's good to change it up. And as somebody who is hypermobile, I've been hypermobile my whole life, I had to start off with light weights and lots of repetitions to strengthen my joints. And so it's a good idea for me to come back to that, because the lighter weights and the more repetitions that you do, the more you're going to strengthen the tissue around the joints. 3 more, everyone. It's so important for us to praise strength and not praise hypermobility. I see that so much being a yoga teacher. You know, the flexy, bendy people that can do the most flexible poses are the ones that are praised. So let's praise strength too, right? Being able to do things in life with ease without hurting ourselves. Okay, we're going to grab our blanket, and also I'd like for you to grab your bicep weight, what you would use for bicep curls. So I'm going to go with 8s today. So grab a couple of those. And the blanket is folded so that it can pad my knees. I'm going to be in a tall kneeling position, so basically standing on my knees. All right, so let's get into position. Hips over the knees. So hip extension. You feel your glutes and your hamstrings working. And more or less the shoulders are over the hips here. Grab your weights. Palms are facing forward. And eyes forward. And then as you exhale, let's curl. Bicep curl. Inhale as you straighten your elbows. And remember what I said about that grip strength. So really notice what part of your hands are you using to grip the weight. That's 5. Going to 15. I always know I'm getting close to the end of a workout when my contacts start to stick inside of my eyes. It's like they get steamy. 2 more, everyone. That was just right for me today. Okay, set your weights down off to the sides. So the next thing that I want to do with you all is to learn how to get up into a standing position from a tall kneeling position. So I'll be your mirror here if you're looking at the camera. You're going to start off by taking your right foot in front of you. Now notice I didn't use any blocks, didn't put my hands on the floor. So maybe try that again. So it's using your balance in your core to take that right foot forward. Okay. Now once you've done that, really drive into that right foot. Curl your left toes under and try to keep your chest lifted. It might go forward a little bit, and that's okay. Just don't collapse and bring your hands down to the floor, okay? Maybe take your hands out in front of you. Now push into the right foot and lift that left knee. Good. There you are. Now step that left foot forward. There, so we came into standing. So we're gonna do that on the other side, but let's reverse the stages first. So take your left foot back, land on the ball of the left foot. So you wanna try to skip over the blanket. Now, lower that left knee directly down underneath the hip. It's okay if you need to look down. And now bring your right knee back so that you're in tall kneeling again. Okay, so we did it. We're back to the starting position. Now we're gonna lead with the left foot. Left foot comes forward. Curl your right toes under, chest lifted. Maybe take your arms out in front of you for counterbalance. Lift the right knee. Step the right foot forward. Reverse the stages. Go ahead and bring your right foot back. Land on the ball of the right foot. Lower the right knee. Good. Take the left knee down. Tall kneeling. I'm going to do that a couple more times on each side. Think you got it. Let's go. Right foot forward. Curl the left toes under. Lift the left knee. Step the left foot forward. Good. Step the left foot back. Lower the left knee. Take the right knee back. Good. Left foot forward. Curl the right toes under, lift the right knee. Good, step the right foot forward. Good, take the right foot back. Bend the right knee, lower the knee down. Take the left knee back. Good. Take your right foot forward. Lift your right knee. Step the right foot forward. Step the right foot back. Lower the right knee. Good, take that. I said the wrong knee, sorry about that. Hopefully you still followed me. We're in tall kneeling. Let's finish off on the second side. Didn't mean to throw you off. Left foot forward. Right knee lifts. Right foot forward. Right foot back. Right knee lowers. Left knee is back. Awesome. So let's do downward facing dog pose. Move anything aside off of your mat, please. So curling the toes under, lifting the knees and the hips up and back. Press through your strong arms. Lengthen your head out of the shoulders. And stretch the outer heels towards the floor without locking the knees. We're coming forward into plank pose. Let's hold that for 5 breaths. Unlock your elbows. Last breath in and out. Lower the knees down. And make your way onto your back. Feel free to pad your head if you would like. Take your arms alongside your body as you're lying back onto your back. Palms facing down. Legs straight and strong. Last little push here. Squeeze your feet together. And as you exhale, lift your legs up about 90 degrees. Keeping neutral spine. Inhale, lower your legs. You might hover your legs about 6 to 8 inches above the floor. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. If this is too hard for you, do single leg lifts. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. So just lifting one leg at a time and alternating. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Looks like this if you're doing single leg lift. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Opposite leg. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. 4 more times. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Keep your sacrum evenly rooted to the mat. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Last time, lift. And lower. Good. Nicely done. Bend your knees. Take your right ankle to your left thigh. Figure 4. Grab the back of your left thigh. Pull your legs in. Flex both of your ankles. And straighten your left leg. Other side. If you'd like, you can switch in the air. So straighten your right leg. Take your left ankle to your right thigh. Grab the back of your right thigh. Your right leg is straight, your ankles are flexed. Release your feet down to the floor, roll over onto your belly. Move your blanket if you use that for a pillow. So as you roll over onto your belly, come onto your elbows. So your elbows are under your shoulders. Your palms are turned up towards the sky. Try to get all 10 of your fingernails onto the floor. And also try to get all 10 of your toenails down to the floor. As you press down into your elbows, lengthen your torso. So you're lengthening from your pubic bone up through your navel, up through your chest. And then nod your chin down a little bit so the back of the neck is long. Bring your elbows a little more forward. Bend your elbows more, interlace your fingers. Rest your forehead on your hands. And bend both of your knees 90 degrees. And levelize your hips to the floor and circle your ankles. Keeping the knees bent 90 degrees. Keeping the chest lifting away from the navel. And then go in the other direction with those circles. Good. Roll onto your right side. So your right hip is down, your right legs are straight and in line with your hips and your ear. Turn your right forearm outwards and straighten your right arm. So your fingertips are pointing away from your hips. And then just sink your right rib cage down towards the floor. And you can either roll to the other side from here, or you can flip-flop around so you can face the camera screen, I'll face the camera, you face your screen. And legs in a nice long line, in line with the hips and the shoulders. And spin that left forearm out, left fingertips point away from you as you sink your left side of your rib cage to the floor. Getting some length here on that underside of your rib cage. Okay, go ahead and come up into seated. Might sit up on something. So let me know how that went for you in the comment section, and if there's any questions that you have or anything that you would like to work on. I have my quote here somewhere hiding underneath my mat. I like to end with a quote for the day. So, this is from Winston Churchill, an amazing writer, an amazing speech writer. So, he says, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." It's much like the saying, it doesn't matter how many times you've fallen, it's how many times you pick yourself up and get up and do it again, right? So I want to thank you for joining me today for Warrior Fit class. I hope that you join me again for another Warrior Fit or maybe one of the yoga classes, so check those out too. Thank you. Namaste.